Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Elephant in the Room. Very good Wednesday to all of you. Hope you are feeling great, and thank you for once again tuning in onto our session. How's things on your end, Taranjeet?
Very well, very well. It's a dark, gloomy evening, and it allowed me to sit at the back part of the house, which is nice. So at least we've got the little garden at the back there. But yes, it's exciting episode we have ahead of us. We've got some exciting guests ahead of us. This segment, if you remember, is basically to talk about the variety of things that we now need to do in this reality that we are currently experiencing. So today we'll be talking about, yesterday we talked about the skills and new ways of learning, and that was coming in from Andrew Lau. And today we're delighted to have Zohrab on board, Zohrab Chong. He's been a very key contributor to our discussions right from the beginning, and we are delighted to have him come in to share his thoughts with us over the next 30 minutes. A little bit about Zohrab. Now, Zohrab is a very passionate people development practitioner with about 23 years worth of corporate exposure. So today we will be asking him to wear his corporate hat. And he has covered a diverse sense of roles and responsibilities, both financial as well as non-financial sectors in a variety of areas within Southeast Asia, Malaysia, Indonesia, Hong Kong, and Singapore. Zohrab has been he's been engaged as speakers and as a facilitator in the area of in the Industrial Revolution 4.0 and the digital transformation. And what better a person to bring on board than Zohrab in this regard. Now, for all intents and purposes, what Zohrab will be looking at is this whole notion about what transformation looks like, putting in his corporate hat. But more importantly, Zohrab is also the founder and chief enabling officer of Enablers, which is the consulting and solutions outfit, where he consults with a variety of clients in the area of digital transformation and linking this to people development. So we have absolute delight in introducing Zohrab Chong to Elephant in the Room. Zohrab?
Hi, Zohrab. Welcome to Elephant in the Room.
Hi, Taranjeet. Thank you for that very warm, kind, welcome introduction in this cold climate that we are now in today. Hi, Muihan. Thank you for having me back. Yeah, having me back. I plunked. I literally jumped into the show the last time. When I received
it was brilliant. Muihan, over to you, bud.
Sure. So Zohrab, maybe I'll just start off with the first question, just to get things rolling. So maybe can you share with us, based on your observation with your clients as well as in your business, what is the reality of work today?
Wow, the reality, actually, that is a very good point to distinguish today. I think let me just rewind back, because a lot of times we hear about new normal, right? About things are going to be different. Hey, hello, this is it. This is as bad as we can get now. You and I are sitting on this.
Not going to be, it's already is.
No more. Don't forget about it. It is now happening. Whatever it is, your day to day, the moment that you wake up till the moment you go to sleep. That's the reality in terms of what you do, how you've been going about your day to day. That is now the reality. So they just want to put that aside, right? So I think let's forget about that. And with that comes the other part that I feel we have been talking about. What should we be doing? What should we be focusing on? And to me, it's a lot of talk lah. But when are we going to take action? So to me, I think now it's really about action. It's about the how. How do we get from this point to the other point? Because ultimately at the end, if you look at from the business perspective that everybody's looking from, the economic perspective, we all want to survive. So now the question is how? How to go about that part, right? So then only I come back to the, what do you see, right? What do I see as what is really focused? What is the key focus and how are we going to do it? So for me, in terms of the business, having been in the corporate sector before, we cannot run away. And this was mentioned in a couple of your episodes earlier. One, this is the time, no longer thinking about what, but really now take out the pen and paper, look into your entire business, start to draw what's your strategy, what will be your operation or your operating model be looking like. You need to start drawing it. No more thinking, putting down on paper. You need to start doing now. You need to look into even how are you going to look at this supply chain? Is that a factor that you look into? Your current operation, who is required? What kind of function is required? Workforce. Now, that's also another interesting part, right? Workforce. Do you need all your 100% now, or can you actually work with less? And we heard so much about gig economy. Is there a potential solution as another form of workforce that you can tap into? Your products and services. Are you still going ahead with producing the same old? You may want to refine that. A new product, a new service. Now's the time to really think about that. And the market positioning is also another factor to look into. Where are you going to position your business now? At the elite, the mass, or we talk about the blue ocean versus the red ocean, this is now the time. So that's number one. Number two, the other aspect that we cannot run away in any business is all about people. And when we have people, one is how are we going to lead the people today? Leading people in today's age, put aside the generation gaps that we've all been talking about in the past. It is now the additional factor of remote versus not remote kind of presence of workforce. How are we going to lead that, right? Yes, we need to be authentic. We need to connect. We need to engage. But yet they are not with us physically.
Yeah.
Right. So how are we going to do that? And related to that, then comes the third part. For me, then it's about how can then managers even manage their team? How can the senior management manage the next level manage the next level down? Because you and I may have gone through before in terms of work career, and from our exposure, even when you're consulting, we know for a fact that a lot of managers, a lot of leaders were promoted because of years of experience, loyalty, and because they're technically performing. However, are they really equipped with the people skills? How do you really manage people? And made worse today, as I said, because it's now remote management is going to be another factor.
One important point, thanks for that, Zohrab. One important point which I've been noticing, and I don't know whether you see it as well. I think since MCO kicked in, most organizations are very focused on providing the infrastructure, the system, the technology to ensure that we can continue to work. And then that's where the whole telecommuting and teleworking started. And these days, most of us are getting used to it, running our meetings over a video conference and things like that. However, one thing I realized is very, very critical, that managers, business leaders, business owners are made to assume to know what to do when they just change from a face-to-face management to a remote management. What are your thoughts on that? I personally feel that most people are under-equipped, are not equipped at all to do this, and therefore creating more damage than good, so to say. But because we are on a survival mode, we just do it lah, But yeah, so maybe you want to hear your thoughts on that.
That's actually a very, very interesting observation now. I think I just want to relate. Yesterday, I think it was mentioned by Andrew. Andrew was on the show, right?
Yeah.
The question about, it is like he mentioned about BCP. Of course, BCP is also an area that I thought we plan, but we never test out the execution. So is exactly the same thing. So you have a plan. Yes, the plan, you work remotely. The plan is I get you your equipment. All of you can sign in on your mobile phone, your laptops. Okay, this is how it works. And we're going to use, for example, Zoom or Teams or whichever platform. All right, so now we're going to schedule a meeting. Please do it. Please carry forward. And then everybody's great. Hey, actually, I don't know how to even do it. There is no support. Right? How to even connect? How do I even navigate for even the technology part? How do I even navigate? Because there's never been an exposure or onboarding of this technology. That's one part. The other part, even that I'm onboarded, when I'm using, how do I ensure that whatever that I'm leading, if I'm chairing a meeting, right, a boss is chairing a meeting with the team, that everybody is actually listening in. How do I get them to be engaged? How do I get them to share their thoughts? Otherwise, end up I'll be talking to myself. In Malaysian, because it's short sendiri lah. We end up short sendiri because we never know on the other side what they're doing on the screen. Yeah, nowadays we're also smart. Our generation Y, Z, they can split the entire screen and see multiple things. Let's not go into what they probably could be watching whilst following you. And I just recently came across a YouTube, viral video show. Somebody thought that the employee was so taken emotionally by the speech of the boss, but actually under the table, he was just peeling onions. He was just crying because of that. Right? So you're absolutely right, Muihan. I think we are ill-equipped. And for me, actually, that is a facilitation skill. We need to develop how to virtually facilitate an effective meeting or even a webinar.
So let me hold you there, Zohrab, and I think you've raised a very good point. So I remember my earlier days as a junior consultant in PW, and I'm ex-PW. We were taught how to enter into these projects. And then a couple of years later, when you become a managing consultant or a manager, you're then taught how to manage teams. So they don't assume, and I'm assuming that practice is still ongoing with these firms. And when you enter into a senior role, you are taught about how to manage larger teams at an enterprise level. Many times as managers or as business leaders, we are given training for functional related requirements, but not for people related. And the rationale is, Zohrab, you go away, read a couple of these books and look at what the MBA programs are and look at some of these hardware, and chances are you'll get that. But that's not the case. Now, if that was difficult yesterday under the old rules that we were playing in, imagine how much more difficult it would be today where you don't have the teams around. Physically, your teams are away. So 70%, 50% of your workforce is not going to be there. Now, I'm going to stop this and I'm going to ask you, so Zohrab, what should we actually do? So my next question to you, and this is a question, what would be the 5 things? And that's what this is about. The reality has come upon us. The rubber has hit the road. That's what today's and this segment is all about. What are the 5 things, the 4 things that business leaders must focus on, and how are they going to do this rather than saying they need to, they should? What are the 5 things?
Okay, so yeah, I can relate to what you shared in the PW's journey, because in my other experience, we also go through that. We equip to at the right stage, right? There's always from individual contributor going to the manager to managers of managers. There will always be this transition, and you need to equip them with the real practical know-how. And today's context is good. There's added dimension, as I said. It's now remote, for example, to come in.
Yes.
And all this navigating, all this technology platform is also another form of required technical skills that you need to look at. So going back to the question, Muihan did ask, so can I just continue on? I mentioned 3 just now. It's about strategy and operations. It's about how we lead people. How do we manage people? Yeah, in this kind of, and the other 2 to just continue on. I think the other is equally important is we often forget, and I haven't heard this a lot in the other episodes from others. How are you managing your customers now? Right? How are you managing the customers? It's a whole new world. Your customers is no longer one segment, it's worldwide. And customers also do not only have you as the supplier or the producer. I also have the whole world, right? So how are you doing that? Are you finding new ways? If you've always depended on people coming to your office, is there a new way to now let them come to your office virtually? To taste, taste may not be there yet, but at least to feel or to see in order to purchase online. What is your user experience? Even if you have a platform now to do e-commerce, what is the user experience like? Are you relooking that? Is it 10 steps to buy just one loaf of bread versus people having 2 steps to buy a loaf of bread. That's going down to that detail now. That's what you need to do, right? And the fifth one, I think this started up at your early episodes where we were talking about the not so good news. Things are bleak. Workforce have to be laid off. But we do not want to get there, right? I mean, we are encouraging companies not to go there. So this is time that you need, I mean, for business leaders, review your compensation model without having to retrench. What can you do? There will always be opportunity to have a face-to-face, authentic conversation with employees. We are all in this together. We need to survive. Is there somewhere where each and every one of us can take a little bit of a cushion, right? However, I think now is the time. We've always heard of COLA, right? The cost of living allowance that's been talked about in many years ago when the government civil servants were going. Why aren't we considering this? Why aren't we considering this now as a hardship allowance or COLA for employees? Look at the other benefits that's been given, on a month-to-month to employees. I always say, parking allowance. Do you really need to have that now? You're actually removing all the parking lots, right? You are staying at home, for example. Any other entertainment allowance? What kind of entertainment are you going to do, for example? You're going to be sitting at home holding virtual, all the travel-related benefits. Can't we look at all this and just do away and now look into COLA? And I'm pretty sure, and this is, I'm not an expertise in here, so business owners, please talk to your tax consultant. Look at the framework, what is allowed and what is not allowed as taxable or non-taxable allowance. That may attract the employee to say, yeah, okay, I accept reduction here, but you give me this one.
I like it.
Right?
No,
So
and that's an absolutely brilliant point. How do we go out there to minimize the overall retrenchment discussion, but actually also capitalize on the productivity element and not losing out on cost containment? I really love that. Muihan?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for the wonderful input so far, Zohrab. Maybe I just want to take this opportunity to do a bit of shout out to our fellow audience who have just tuned in. What does really start from the top? So we have Sulim. Sulim, thank you for tuning in. Nice to see you again. And of course, we have both Sujit and Bawan all the way from Perth. We are doing very well. Thanks for your support. Dr. Mike from Singapore, as usual. Yeah. So he say hi to you. And so my good friend Ted Moy Chion, thanks for tuning in. Also, we have Mei Fong. Thanks for your support. And my good brother KJ also tuning in today. And Ranjit as well. Yes, Ranjit. Thanks for your support. And we got one question here from Dr. Mike, maybe just to break the monotony to ask you. Most likely, most companies likely to go back into what they call a business as before mode. So how do we prompt them to a reality check in that sense?
That's very interesting. Now it's a new term. Good. Thank you, Dr. Dr. Mike. Now I get a new word, babo. Right? B-A-B-O, babo. Well, I don't know. Okay, so first thing first. In all honesty, in my opinion, whoever thinks that they can adopt babo. Right? Let's go. You are living in Malaysian context. You're living under a coconut shell, kata di bawah tempurung. The entire environment has changed. The very first thing that you realize, government in Malaysia, for example, if you're a business, have introduced SOP. You want to open business, there's so many other requirements. There's no longer babo. You need to have your PPE, you need to have your sanitization, you need to do your temperature check. That is only for the health. You now need to do social distancing in the office. The number of cubicles that you probably have to dismantle. The meeting room also now is going to be everything changes. And some of the suppliers that you have, even your customers that you probably have as business, may no longer exist. They no longer exist because we didn't operate. Either they also have have totally wounded down because we already heard that's a reality, or they have also found somebody else.
Yep.
So what bubble? There's no more bubble. To me, the moment you start operation, you would instantly realize that, hey, this is it. This is the reality. Whatever there is now, I need to work with it. I need to start moving. Right? No more talk only lah. No NATO lah.
I just maybe wanted to add on that point, Zohrab. I think when we first started MCO, at least for the first 3 weeks, there was a very broad spectrum of speculation of how soon, how fast we will go back to the normal times in that sense. And at that moment, I think there was a lot of debate, as well as there's a lot of supporters to say, especially I think in our training industry, you will know this for sure. I think there's a good significant portion of trainers who insist to say that no way we're going to do virtual training because virtual training is so different, the human touch is not there, and don't worry, this is just a passing moment. The moment this passes, then we go back to business as usual. Yeah? That I think was in the first 3-4 weeks of MCO when we have that conversation. But since the multiple extension that happened, I guess no longer I hear that kind of conversation anymore. Even the proponents of face-to-face training are also moving virtually. At least that's my observation in the training circle. So this is something I feel that it is grappling with reality and moving forward to really say that, yes, this is the reality, no longer going to be the reality.
It is. Exactly. I mean, if we use the context of training, right? Imagine if you are not doing virtual, people will say, huh? Which century are you from? What mean you are not delivering virtual? Everybody is delivering virtual.
Yeah.
That is the norm now. But you still want to insist on face to face? Who's going to engage you?
Yeah.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Mike, for that question.
Correct. So maybe just to answer Dr. Mike, I think the answer is maybe show them the picture today, show them customers today. And I think the journey is so important, as you mentioned earlier, one pertinent point of where is the customer currently and how are they behaving currently is a very key important question for us to ask ourselves as service provider or even manufacturers or in any business that we serve. Whether the customer is still there or the customer has changed or there's new customer. This question we fail to ask ourselves is the challenge that most business have, in my opinion. Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, let's get maybe more people to actually come on to ask more questions. We have some other question, and I think Taranjeet also have a question.
Sure. Thank you for bringing me in, Wihan, which is nice. So yeah, I was wondering when I was going to come in here. Anyway, the other one, Zohrab, and it's intriguing that you talked about this whole reality, and this is reality. So my going in now is what advice, and we're coming into the last couple of minutes here. What advice would you give business owners, and I'm specifically looking at business owners here, as to the operationalization of the reality that we are currently facing? What would be the 1 or 2 things that you will impart to them? Zohrab.
Okay, so thanks for that question. So in my humble opinion, my advice, as you know, I'm a firm believer in people development. We cannot run away. People is truly our asset and truly the enabler to make the business work. Right? And you need them to perform at their level best to be able to give you the result that you want. So how are we going to do that? We need to now find means and ways to manage people. What is the capability? And for me, 2 things. You talk about capability, building the capability to manage a remote team. Now, remote teams are now not only just here in Klang Valley at home, it is all around the world. You may have that. You may need to manage all the different time zones as well. How are you going to manage a team like this? That's 1. 2, in order to manage remotely, you also need to be equipped with facilitation skills. We cannot run away. As leaders, we are here to drive results through the people. We That's the reason why we employ them. Otherwise, you do everything yourself, right? And in order to that, we need to facilitate, and facilitating goes back to the root of having a conversation. Be able to run a meaningful conversation through the art of questioning, art of listening. And when we put this together in a remote world, the additional element or the dimension is your presence on the physical, on the virtual platform. How are you connecting? Is your eye connecting? Just as how are you using your hand gesture? So all this actually is part and parcel of facilitation, and we need to strengthen this area. That's one. Second one, related to that, is once you master that skill, or while in the journey of mastering this, how are we leading them? How are we engaging the team to deliver? And gone are the days of micromanagement. If you're having a remote workforce, forget about micromanagement. Forget about calling in every time. How are you going to get them motivated? Just tell them, I need this by tomorrow. But tomorrow, if it's delivered, then you're fine. That's how you engage, how you lead them for an output driven, rather than every hour checking in. When is this coming?
So this is essentially the fallouts from the earlier ways of managing people, because quite honestly, you would stand behind their desk as they're doing the work and look down on their shoulders whether they're doing it right. But you can't do that now. But that also means that the expectations of the employees now have also increased. The expectations and accountability of employees have also gone up exponentially. And if you don't deliver, there's a very different conversation that we have to enter into, if you know what I mean.
Totally agree.
Sorry, please go ahead, Zohrab.
Yeah, so it boils down to, you want to lead people effectively, we need to be able to empower, right? So empowering needs effort. It needs to build on trust, and you need to let them know that there is an output-driven measurement for you. You are now at home. I don't care whether you're taking time in morning at 8 o'clock or 12 midnight to complete the work. In between, you want to watch a movie, do whatever it takes, because at the end of the day, I'm going to look at your output. You promised me at tomorrow at 5 p.m. Tomorrow 5 p.m. is where I check in on you.
So this absolutely. And my last point here, does it really have an impact now on people development, given the fact that the demand has now shifted? And what do I mean by that, Zohrab? We are currently in a situation where we are trying to manage costs. And when I talk about people development, I'm actually talking about expenditure. And you now have a paradox. As much as I would agree with you, that is important, but there's also a balancing that I need to do. So when does this come into play? Do I start talking about people development today? Or do I talk about people development in 3 months from now? What's your deal?
Okay, so putting back the exposure that I had in the corporate world, also going through the crisis that you have gone through, from the economic crisis to the 2000 subprime. I was also a statistics in terms of the unemployment market at that time. For me, people development doesn't necessarily always mean a lot of investment. And we shouldn't forego. Right? Yeah. Leaders in the organization, you are the first prime executor of people development. You become the mentor, you become the coach to another person, and that's your own time cost. There is no dollar and cents to be spent. Why can't you do that? Another opportunity is look at others who are able to give you focused solution. If remote management or facilitation skill is where you see the need most, put whatever that you have to start with a small group. Let them internally share. Let them be the coach to others. So it shouldn't stop. I mean, to me, people development shouldn't stop. Unless you're talking about talent development, then maybe this opportunity to come back for another time. The question actually is talent development dead, right? Have we seen the end of talent development in the lights of gig economy, in lights of what's going on? Is it dead? I don't know.
I like it. I like
So
it.
a quick question here from Sulim. Maybe just wanted to just highlight. So he asked, how do we motivate our staff when the human touch is missing in the remote working environment? Maybe you want a quick thoughts on that, Zohrab?
All right. Okay. So okay. Thank you, Sulin, for that question. All right. So to me, the traditional form to me still works. How do you engage? Do not just depend on the virtual platform. Pick up a phone. Pick up just a phone call, just to have a real conversation. Really, how you coping now? You know, what are your challenges? You know, what's being so unique, or what's just happened? Any something new that you found at home? Have that kind of conversation. I think that's what is required. I mean, if you haven't done that in the office space before, start having a conversation. Don't go into a virtual mode call. You know, it's very uncomfortable. If there's already no relationship to begin with, and you want to do an engagement like this, no, just pick up a phone. Even if you start 5 minutes, at least it's a 5 minutes. After that, build on no more. Right?
And the thing I wanted to add, maybe on that note as well, since we are, tapering off the MCO, going to conditional MCO, and maybe the lifting, hopefully by next week. I'm praying for that. It doesn't stop us from actually still meeting face to face. So I think that we shouldn't switch overnight to say that now we are working remote. You purely don't see the other guy unless it's on a computer screen. Unless that person is situated in another country or another geography that is inaccessible. But let's say if we are all in the Klang Valley, what is stopping us to actually still meet up? I think from time to time, not to say to do it every day, but I think that is very important as well. Okay, when we come to the end of our show, maybe one last word from you, Zohrab, before we close the show.
Wow. One last word. To me, as I said, this is as real as you can get. No more talking, no more thinking. Start doing. All right? Start doing. We fail, never mind. Picked up. Continue going. Right? Explore. It's a great new world out here. There's all new opportunities. The world is your oyster, as they say.
Well done.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Thank you so much, Zohrab. We are so happy to have you again, and we hope to continue to see you daily for your support. But with that, thanks for all your inputs. We'll talk to you soon, right? So, Taranjeet, quick one. 2-3 things which you think we have maybe caught on from today's discussion.
Sure. So I think the couple of things here. I like the 5 things that Zohrab talked about. We talked about the operationalizing of the strategies. You talked about the leading of people, managing and engaging people, customers, and that's an area which we did not cover in a lot of detail in the previous areas. What really came out from the customer side was what Sean was doing. Amazing to actually see how he has shifted his model to talk about toiletries and bathroom fittings on Facebook Live. Absolutely amazing. And I still am thinking about that. I'm thinking, what an amazing opportunity. I mean, seriously, who would have thought?
We should sell consulting like that way, yeah.
And the last thing that really came across was the area of compensation and this whole COLA thing. And I think that makes complete sense. What was also a very good last question or last point is that whole talent development still valid? And that's a very interesting point, because that then means that the whole notion of jobs around the area of talent development now is very tenuously positioned. Do I need a talent development manager, or is the talent development of the same nature as what it was before, given the fact that the employment base has now shifted with the gig economy and what have you? So these were a couple of things that I took away. Wehan?
So I want to just quickly acknowledge this comment here by Sujit and Bhavan to talk about university students that is impacted with the current situation going online. They are impacted, and I think there was a follow-up to say that it doesn't matter whether it's schools or business. And I think just relating to this point on the schools, Sujit, I wanted to say that there was a very interesting insight from Professor Scott Galloway about 2 weeks back from NYU. And this guy was talking about the onslaught of how the current situation will change the education sector forever, because all the top schools are making a lot of good money just by bringing people on campus. But if you stop bringing them on campus, he is expecting the second and third tier universities to close like shopping malls in America. So that is a very, very interesting conversation, because I thought whatever happens in Northern America will soon come to Asia as well. I think that is something to be seen to all our schools. Okay, one last thing just wanted to share is what we have in store for you tomorrow. Maybe a quick one just to introduce our guest tomorrow. Taranjeet, go ahead.
Sure. Absolute delight in having Damiri Petra on board. He will be talking on the area of agility. I've had the immense pleasure of working with him personally as well, a very agile individual in his own right. So I'll be intrigued. I'll be very intrigued to hear his thoughts and his sharings for the coming 30 minutes that we will have tomorrow. Muihan?
So Friday, as we mentioned yesterday, we will have Malati Kanaga Sapati with us, and Malati is calling in all the way from Brisbane, Australia, and she will walk through with us on this whole core topic of emotional wellness, our mental wellness or well-being in this current environment. How do then managers can actually focus on this, which is very critical to not only manage the shock and shift, but moving forward, how they can pick up some skill set that is important to better work and thrive in this environment. So we will have that two guests coming up in the next 2 days, and I hope that you can join us tomorrow as well as Friday at 6 p.m. So it's a wrap. Thank you so much, everybody. We are really grateful for your continuous support. We hope to see all of you tomorrow at 6 p.m. Thank you. See you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.